Good morning, Rob. Thank you so much for joining us. And some of us have journeyed with you over the last 18 months or so, when you've given us updates of the situation in Haiti. I just wonder, for those who haven't met you before and have only heard from a distance about Haiti, would you mind just telling us a little bit about you, maybe how you came to faith, what your background is, why you chose to become a nurse, your connection with Haiti? Would that be all right?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Rob. Firstly, massive thanks for those who have been praying over the last few years, actually, for a variety of different mission trips I've been involved in, and especially for the last difficult but good year and a half. Thank you for those who prayed and journeyed with me virtually or in friendship. And so I became a Christian at about 11 on a youth camp, and then wanted to do mission work actually from when I was quite young. Did a few years of voluntary work, including working for London City Mission for a year, and then felt the call to do a vocational qualification, and the discipline that God laid on my heart was nursing. So I went into that with a view to being able to use that overseas. Did a couple of years of work in A&E, and then for the last 5.5 years, I've been sort of self-employed, doing training of nurses, and coming and going from Haiti. And the last 2 years, I've been there full time at a small mission hospital, and it's owned and run by the Baptist Convention of Haiti, but our charity, a British charity called Hope Health Action, partners with it. So I'm there helping represent the charity.
And how did you get involved with the charity, Rob?
So it was set up by a couple who I got to know through Wheels for the World, through the charity Through the Roof. So Relinka was the missions manager at Through the Roof for a while, and her and her husband actually helped set up this hospital in Haiti. So there were connections there.
And so it was last year, beginning of last year, that you went out with the aim to stay for a few months, and then pandemic hit. And you did have the option, like so many other Westerners, to leave with the last plane, and you decided to stay. Why did you decide to stay?
So for the few years before then, I'd gone to Haiti for a few months, come back here, worked for a few months to support myself back to Haiti, and came and went, of which there are great benefits. And so it was kind of on my mind maybe to stay a bit longer anyway. So I came just with hand luggage for a 2-month trip. And then there was that crunch point where there weren't a lot of expats sort of left, and a lot of mission teams weren't going to Haiti because of the political security instability anyway for the previous autumn. So it's quite thin on the ground, and they hadn't found anyone to come and replace the work I was doing at the hospital. And there would have been no one there representing the charity. So I felt like partly a bit of duty, partly a bit of I want to stay. And also, I'm at that particular season of life where I'm single, don't have a mortgage or a renting or anything in the UK. So I've got a very light footprint. So I'm able to just decide to stay and do that, whereas others couldn't. So I felt it was the right thing to do. I'm very glad that I did.
Yeah. I mean, from the reports you sent, you were definitely a blessing being there and supporting through a lot of unexpected crisis with COVID and so on. So when you're out there, is your main activity kind of in the medical field or in the mission field? Or is it possibly mixed, intertwined?
Yeah, it's a very mixed job, which is part of the reason why I like it. the analogy I think of when I'm working there is a bit like spinning lots of plates. So you're constantly just spinning some plates and checking everything is okay with the running of the hospital. So my main job is as the healthcare coordinator. So trying to walk alongside, partner with the local team. The hospital is run entirely by local Haitian staff. All the nurses and doctors are Haitians, which is great in terms of how they're able to do work and care for people. So just seeing what they need. They often come with lots of different requests to our charity about equipment or about training. So I'll work to provide those with the charity. Also, we've got different projects out there that the charity's provided, like all the solar, the incinerator, Wi-Fi systems for the hospital, all of that. So I'll be involved in the running and maintenance of a lot of those things as well. Also, we help support the chaplains. So we fund the chaplains at the hospital. They run a service midday every day in the week. So we help support them. Sometimes I'll be speaking there or seeing what ways we can sort of empower and support them. So that's the kind of main job that I'm up to.
But I guess as you're either dealing with patients or with staff, there will be opportunities to encourage and to share your faith. I mean, can you say what's the official kind of faith that is most people kind of sign up to, if you like, in Haiti? What's the situation there?
Yeah, it is a bit complicated. So anyone you ask on the street will say they're a Christian. Mm-hmm. So it's been said, Haiti is 70% Catholic, 30% Protestant, 100% Voodoo. And, a lot of people will say they're Christians or will go to church on Sunday, will have a Bible, will say they read it, but then will also go to some voodoo ceremonies and will also pay their voodoo priest to do things. The majority, over half of healthcare in Haiti is delivered by voodoo practitioners. So Western medicine is still the minority of healthcare delivery in the country. The majority is done with traditional approaches. And many of those, voodoo priests, I'd see as, they're people trying to help other people. But there is definitely still a small part of it that is quite sinister and would be maybe what we from a Christian Western perspective would see as voodoo or sort of demon worship and things. And that definitely does happen. But is not I'd say the vast majority. I'd see it more of how, secular materialism is very much intermingled in the Western church. That we may, if they came into our culture, they may have lots of questions about how materialistic we are and how that works with our faith. And we may go there and see some intermingled with traditional things and we go, oh, how does that work with your faith? So I don't know the culture, the language well enough to peel some of that apart. But what that looks like on the ground is that people are receptive to talking about God. People will pray for you. People will love it if you pray for them. The chaplains at our hospital very easily talk to people about Jesus and very easily bring people to our chapel and pray for them and do see big answers to prayer and big results. So yeah.
So I guess there are not a lot of Bible teaching churches around in Haiti.
There's lots of churches. I don't know. My language is almost good enough to start going to a local church and really listening in to what's being said and what's going on. A lot of people that work at the hospital obviously would say they're Christians, but you do see some real genuine faith believers there, where they're relying on God every day for their support. The whole cultural mindset is very different as well to here. People live very much day by day, week by week, hand to mouth. It's a lot more of a sort of survival mentality. People look after each other really well in their communities. If your neighbour's going without food and you're their neighbour and you have food, it's a big cultural bad thing that you've not shared your food with them. You must share your food with them. So people in their communities really do look after each other and are very, very compassionate, very kind. Outside their communities, though, they're can be very hostile and very seemingly unwelcoming. But part of that is that they're looking after their community. So yeah, people live very much day by day and don't necessarily plan for many times in the future.
When I remember you mentioning that people were in their communities, they're also very reluctant to admit when COVID was around, or it still is around, but that there was a stigma of being ill, and they would just hide in their homes because they didn't want to be stigmatized. So that's the flip side, I guess, of a close-knit community. If that superstition, if you like, is around, that if you're ill, then you've been cursed or whatever it might be. Is that fair to say? Yeah,
there were a lot of the average age in Haiti is 23.
Oh, wow.
And if people will prioritize anything for their home or personal development versus a smartphone, they will go with the smartphone. So there were lots of memes going around at the start of COVID in Haiti, basically saying like, there is no COVID in Haiti, it doesn't exist. But if this tea will help protect against it, give it to me. So lots of people doing lots of things to try and protect against COVID, which obviously doesn't exist and can't possibly be in Haiti. So you had lots of traditional approaches to that, and a lot of stigma. The education level is very low, so people are, I think, naturally afraid of what you don't know. And they're seeing what we're seeing now is the uptake of the vaccine is incredibly low because of a lot of social media things rather than listening to health experts who are qualified. So that's been a real challenge throughout. But it's been amazing seeing people, despite that, step up to take the risk and take the stigma of COVID and look after people. So this one guy really shines out at our hospital called Meike, who is a groundskeeper, but young lad, loves Jesus very much. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll serve wherever's needed. And so although he was a groundskeeper, he ended up working in the COVID ward. He'd be lifting patients up. He'd be putting them in the ambulance. He's got driving qualification. Of course, he'd never ever possibly think of owning a car. It's way too expensive there. But he's got his license, so he's driving the ambulance around. He's doing everything just out of will of, yes, I will serve. I love Jesus. And so you get people like him that just really deep encouragements and keep you going, which is really amazing.
Yeah. Are there any other encouragements you can share from your time in Haiti last year when everything turned out so differently from what you thought?
Yeah, there's a lot of hardships and challenges and difficulties at the hospital as well, and in the place in general. But I have got some highlights and some stories, not just within the hospital but outside as well. It's amazing seeing God at work there and God at work in people and in forming people's characters. There's a missionary couple who looked after me a lot when last year was quite hard, called Meike and Hope. And they're a sort of middle-aged couple with grown-up children. And they've got a real ministry looking after people out there, especially expats. But actually a few months ago, got a call to say that Meike had been shot and someone had just pulled up to his window and maybe tried to kidnap them or something, I don't know, but had shot him, and he'd leant forward to defend his wife and taken the bullet in his shoulder, and it had got lodged in his spine, and he was paralyzed from the waist down straight away. So there's no emergency service out there in Haiti. There's no 999. There's no CT scanner in the north of the country. When COVID started, we had no ventilators in the north of the country, but so we had to try and get him medevaced out. So they called us at our hospital. So my colleague Phil and I went in the ambulance to go and attend to him and get him sorted out from a medical point of view, and got him stabilized and got him transferred to a different place. But in the ambulance in the back, I'm hearing this conversation between him and his wife, and he's saying, he's looking at her and saying, if I don't make it out, I want you to know I'm at peace. And she says, yes, I know you're at peace. And he goes, I want you to know I've forgiven them. Already I've forgiven them. And she said, yes, before I got in the car, I went away and prayed, and I too have forgiven them. And he goes, all things will work for good because God is good. And she goes, yes, I know, all things will work for good. And it's just like this, this really intimate, private conversation between this couple that I'm just in the middle of, because I'm basically like sort of half led on top of him to stop him moving around in the back on the bumpy roads and keeping an eye on his vitals. But it was, that's going to be a big memory of the last year of despite difficulties and hardships, there is, God is the light and God is the hope, and God can make his light shine very brightly in dark places. He's going to be in a wheelchair the rest of his life, but they're doing well with their rehab in Atlanta now.
Wow. What would you say is the greatest need for Haiti or for the hospital? What can we pray for, or how can we?
Definitely keep praying for Haiti in general as a country. They've had no government since January 2020, and in a year and a half of being there, I've not had a single Haitian person say a single positive thing about the future of their country, which kind of gets into your bones a bit, and it seeps into the culture of the hospital. I'd say morale is low at our hospital amongst staff and patients. I don't think that's because of anything we're doing particularly wrong. It's the whole atmosphere of the country feels very oppressive. It feels very much like it's declining into this sort of gang-run state or anarchy. So it doesn't feel like there's any real law there that's enforced. And then with the president being assassinated and there not really being anyone to fill the place, and then the latest earthquake in the south, and the real difficulty NGOs and aid workers have had to get there because of all the gangs and doctors being kidnapped trying to get there. And so as the country's going downhill, as everyone seems to predict, I do believe the only real hope for the country is the Haitian church, is the local Haitian church to rise up really and get involved in politics, whereas before they've really stepped back, and to really take control of some things, and to really see this as a time to shine and a time to get communities together. To really pray for that, really pray for the Haitian church, and for our hospital, really pray that we would be like a lighthouse, like a shining light, and that we wouldn't go down and share the same level of despondency and darkness, that our charity and the administration of the hospital would think of ways we can really encourage our staff and really give them what they need to keep going. There would be real prayer points.
What kept you going, Rob, throughout last year? How did you feel nourished spiritually to keep going?
Got a wonderful church in Chessington, who are my home church, and they supported me with a lot of prayer. The WhatsApp broadcast group to get prayer requests out there and share things have been invaluable. I've been going to a local, there's another group of expats that run foster homes, and we normally have a little gathering every Sunday where we'll sing some songs, pray together, and listen to a sermon, and that's been invaluable to stay encouraged. Every morning as well, we have a Bible study before we go to work at the hospital, which is great just to fill you up. It's like to share a quick other story with you for your spiritual encouragement as well. We've got a neonatal unit at the hospital, so that's for very, very small premature babies, and a lot of them would otherwise not survive if they didn't have the care there. And because we have a neonatal unit, we have more children in our area that are living with long-term disabilities, because we've been able to save their life as babies, but now they live with long-term challenges, which is hard in that place, in that culture, without social care and without other bits of healthcare. But there's one boy called Zeke who's been taken in by this foster home charity that we partner with, and he's now 11. He's got severe cerebral palsy. He can't move his arms and legs. His head's sort of stuck to one side. He's non-verbal. He just moves a finger up and down. That's yes, that's no. So they've been able to communicate with him through this yes and no thing. And they still bring him to school and things. But 2 years ago, they got him a Dynavox thing, it's called, which is it's like an iPad. Well, it runs Windows XP. It's like ancient, and it's got this camera on it, and it tracks your eyes, and it looks on the screen where you're pointing. So they gave him this thing. They set him up with it, and the first thing he did is he typed in English, "When am I being adopted?" And everyone's like, "Whoa, Zeke's a genius," and he really is. He's super clever, and then he's going, "And this nanny's stealing from you, and this person does that, and this person." Anyway, so everyone's like, "Oh, wow." We just thought he was, this boy who couldn't move, sat in the corner all day, and actually he's seeing and learning and knowing what's going on. So, and they've managed to find a family in America who will adopt him. And they sent him the most beautiful video saying, "We can't wait to meet you. You are ours. We love you already." The daughter's like, "Can't wait to get in trouble with you." The mom's like, "Can't wait to read to you every night." And the dad, who's a medical doctor, is like, "I can't wait to buy you everything you need, everything, a wheelchair, we'll do everything." So it's just scarcely believable, beautiful video. And it's real, and they have adopted him, but he's not there yet. In a couple of months' time, he's going to go to America for his forever family. And when he was shown the video, it melts his mind, and Rachel, his foster mum, reads Harry Potter to him and everything. And it's suddenly he's this character in a story that's now having this unbelievable good thing happen to him. And he wants to be an author as well. And he actually could be now. He could actually do that in America. But every time he gets the Dynavox thing, the first thing he writes now is, "Show me the video." And he's seen the video 50 times. But every time he gets it, he says, "Show me the video." And I think for us as Christians, isn't there an element that we are living in two realities? We're living in, like Zeke. Zeke is living in two realities. On one hand, he's adopted. This family are taking him in. He's got all these promises. But when he opens his eyes and looks around him, he's lying on the floor, not doing a lot. That's his reality. So he wants to see the video each time. And I think for us as Christians, every time we come to the Bible, come to church, there's an element of us saying to God, "Show me the video. Show me the video again. I want to see these promises. I want to see that you love me." And that's not wrong. And that's a great thing. Because it's not the reality we always see around us. And in Haiti, you look around and think, it's a beautiful country, but it's a bit broken. And I think countries we look at and think, oh, they're not that broken. I think there's just a veneer, and it is just the same. We all need the gospel. We all need the love of God. So I think, how did I stay spiritually refreshed? Show me the video. The video, it's got to be every day, every Sunday, isn't it? We all need that.
What an amazing picture. I think that will stay with me for for a long time.
It stay with me. Yeah.
So do you see yourself kind of future wise that this is what your heart is, that you will continue to want to be flexible in your life? I mean, it's quite a big thing, isn't it, to kind of choose not to put down roots and buy a house and be settled somewhere, but to say, "God, use me where you wish," kind of thing.
It's a joy for a season. I think life has different seasons. I'd love if another season would come in the future where I could put some more roots down. So the plan is I'm going back to Haiti until Christmas. And then
on Monday,
I'm going on Monday. Arrive in Haiti on the Tuesday, God willing, and we'll be there through until just before Christmas and come back here. And yeah, my current thinking is that that will probably be time to step out of that role and come back here and take stock and look for the next chapter. It's although I've said lots of positives about things there, it is a tough place, and the burnout rate of expats is very high, and 2 years is a long amount of time to be there. So I want to respect those statistics as well as see how big God is and how He can do the impossible. I also recognise some of those dangers and difficulties and frustrations that can come up. So I feel. Also, I've got my master's. I've been kicking that can down the road for a long time, so I need to really finish that. And there's some health things with my. I've got a degenerated disc in my back, so I need some proper rehab and work for that. So there's a few reasons why coming back for a good couple of months, January, February, March, would be a wise thing, and maybe then for good. So we'll wait and see. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rob. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you feel you would like to share before we pray for you?
No, that's great. I think pray for the country of Haiti. Pray that it gets a stable government. Pray for the church in Haiti that they will step up and step out and see. God would give them renewed vision, especially to engage in politics as well, which is always a difficult, dicey thing to do. And pray for our hospital. Pray that morale would go up, and that we'd have ways of being able to do that.
What is your master's in, Rob?
It's sort of advanced practice. I've kind of done it. I just need to do the dissertation, and while you're there in Haiti, there's too much going on to do that. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Rob. That's been really, great insight into a different world to ours over here. Thank you.